Why don't we just get an introduction of the both of you, starting with you, Andrew, if you don't mind. Just tell us about yourself and your role with the Globe Media Group.
Sure. So Andrew Consky, I am the head of media research and insights at the Globe and Mail. I've been here for just over 5 years. I have over 25 years of media research experience, both in traditional and digital media. And I lead a team who primarily supports revenue. We support the product teams, and we're analyzing media trends. We're executing consumer research to guide the development of product,
Hmm.
marketing, sales strategies as well. And in addition to what I do, we also lead our own proprietary research panel, our insight community called the Globe Insiders. We have about 3,500 readers, subscribers who have offered to give their insight to us. So we run surveys against them on a regular basis, which is how you came to us through our travel survey.
Yeah, amazing. You're kind of like an
Cool.
Andrew of all
Yeah.
trades, I guess. Yeah.
I would say so, kind of.
Yeah. How about yourself, Mark?
Well, I'm a pioneer. I've been with the Globe Mail since 1980.
Wow.
So if you knew where you were the day John Lennon of the Beatles was shot, that was my first day at the Globe and Mail.
Oh, no
So
Wow.
way.
that's 45 years in, loving it. My main
Oh,
role is I'm one of the advertising managers at the Globe and Mail, and the travel category is one of my responsibilities at the Globe and Mail, amongst many other things. My real title is International Advertising Manager. So anything that's outside of Canada falls into my jurisdiction in addition to the travel category. I keep a close tab on that category. I was a board member. I sat in the board of the of TIO, which is Tourism Industry Association of Ontario. I was sat on their board for 6 years. So I have a real passion for tourism, especially when it comes to local tourism in Ontario. And we are also, Globe Mail is also a member of TIAC, which is the national governing body of tourism in Canada. So that's who I am.
okay. Wow. We've got some two
Awesome.
powerhouses here. Yeah,
Well,
I'd
and
say.
on that note, I mean, the part of the big reason why we want to chat is there's an article you guys published earlier in the summer around travel to the U.S. And Globe Reader's perspective on that. I know we're not at the beginning of the summer anymore, but there's consistent and persistent news articles and stories about travel and the travel industry and what's going on there. And I think in response largely to tariffs, but there's also some dollar exchange rate things and things that are influencing people's decisions. Can you just start by just telling us a little bit about what you guys found in that original bit of research?
Yeah, I can take that. For the past 4 years, I want to go back for the past 4 years because
Sure.
we've been surveying Globe Insiders about their travel plans and interests for that amount of time. And I'd say this year's survey was a little bit different for the reasons that you cited. We launched the research about 3 months after Canadians were reacting to Trump's tariff announcements, continued threats, the trade war. So, since that time, there have been several syndicated studies, research studies that revealed that Canadians were starting to cancel or postpone their trips to the US due to the political and economic climate. So, what we wanted to do was we wanted to understand if Globe readers essentially felt that same way. So,
Mhm.
there were three key findings from the research. So, I'll just lead you into the three key findings. So, first off, Globe readers have a strong intent to travel. About 87% said that they're planning to take a vacation in the next 12 months. But where they intend to vacation in the next 12 months has shifted from what we've seen over the years. 80% planning to stay within Canada. It's up from about 64 to 70% over the last couple of years. 67% said that they're planning to vacation with internationally, and that's up a few points. It's up from 61% last year. What's really surprising, and maybe not so much, is that only 15% of our readers, or those who responded to the survey, said that they're planning to travel to the US. That's cut in half. That's down from 36% over the last 2 years that we conducted this research. And the reasons for that are basically trade and tariff concerns. They have been impacting plans of traveling to the US. Canadians are angry over the tariffs and their war. Their trust is broken, and they're voting with their wallet. So we've seen that about a quarter of respondents said that they've canceled or postponed a U.S. vacation. The majority, 59%, cited extreme concerns about trade and tariff issues. But I'd say it goes beyond that because about a third of respondents each said that they're extremely concerned about passing through the border as well as their general safety when they get there. And thirdly, the strong desire to travel, not so much to the US, has caused Canadians to shift their attitudes towards travel. So, what we found is that 85% of respondents said that they're open to new vacation ideas instead of visiting the US. 79% said that they're willing to fly further for their vacation. 68% said they're open to different types of vacation experiences. And they would even spend more money for this or cut their vacation shorter in order to do this. And the shift could be long lasting, even once the trade war ends, as only 33% of readers said that they'd actually reconsider traveling to the US. 44% flat out said they're not willing to reconsider. So those are really the three key findings from the research that we conducted.
It's pretty wild that the shift, especially from the 35 to 17 or 15, sorry, like of the people who are willing or considering going to the US. That's a pretty dramatic shift.
It is, absolutely.
And it also kind of makes me think about like Peter Drucker a long time ago wrote about seven sources of innovation, which I keep coming back to in this moment because it's the market structural changes. Like it just cuts demand right off of what people are willing to do, and for the US, but then also creates this opportunity for other places like Europe, as you mentioned. People are willing to consider go further for new travel experiences and new travel opportunities. So it's fascinating.
It's interesting because we weren't having this conversation last year. Last year, we were asking them more about the types of vacations that they wanted to take, and we got into their bucket list aspirations. And what was interesting last year is we found that 46% of our respondents to our survey last year said they actually had a travel bucket list, of which Europe topped that list. Of course, Europe is is the top destinations where Canadians are traveling to instead of the US. And so shifting attitudes might actually be accelerating their desire to act on those dreams, turning those long-term plans into those more immediate opportunities instead of US travel. So I found that actually quite interesting as
Really.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there like so is the study more around like leisure travel, or is there business travel involved in that as well?
We only asked about leisure travel.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious about that as well. Um, how would we talk about, the way you're surveying your readers. Um, how would surveying your readers kind of provide insight that's different from, like traditional market research, would you say?
I wouldn't say that it's all that different from turning to a market research vendor and having them run this survey through their panel. The main difference is that they would ensure that their data is representative of all Canadians and the Canadian population. The key difference for us is that our research generally reflects Globe readers, and more specifically, I'd say Globe subscribers,
Mm.
who can really be it's difficult to find in traditional market research and expensive to find in that research, costly to recruit from a vendor panel. So that to me would be the main difference. The other thing too is because we're using our own panel, we've got a platform that we can immediately go out, program a survey, and communicate to them. We can see the results in a matter of days and actually in real time. So the quickness of this research to really understand what our readers are thinking and feeling, we can turn around the research in a matter of days. Matter of fact, in February, we ran some research just to understand once the threat of tariffs were announced, we wanted to understand what Canadians were thinking and feeling. And within 24 hours, we saw some huge results in terms of Canadians wanting to boycott US or American brands and American shops, and they're planning to buy Canadian. And that, in essence, has extended to vacations and travel as well.
I even see that at the grocery store too, where there's labels now that I pay more attention to, of like product of USA or product of Canada. And so I forget what it was. I was in the produce section though, and I think I want to say it was like peaches or something, but there was U.S. peaches and Canadian peaches. All the Canadian peaches were gone, but the U.S. I don't know if it's just because the prices. I don't know what exactly the reason was, but it's interesting. From your perspective on the shift that we're seeing specifically with the U.S. and even the opportunity side on Europe, is there how significant is this shift for the whole industry? It's not a small industry, and we've got a whole bunch of partners here, like Travel Alberta as an example, and Tourism Calgary. And I mean, there's all these organizations, Destination Canada, that are impacted by some of these changes. But how significant is this shift?
From a research point of view, I think so if I was looking at it from a research point of view and what our findings, what we found in our research, it mirrors those of the general population. So the findings that are out there in syndicated studies validate our results, but there is a significant shift in terms of where people are. I mean, if they're not going to the US and if they're staying in Canada, there's definitely a stronger opportunity to market to them. There might be some places or some experiences that Canadians have typically done elsewhere, but they can do it in their own country that they might not even be aware of. I don't know if you wanted to speak to that. I know that you've got some examples, Mark.
The whole marketplace is changed as a marketer now. Whoever you're representing, whether you're representing a destination marketing organization or a provincial tourism organization, they have to look at who they're going after now. So Canadians are speaking now with their mindset. Mr. Trump has come after Canada in ways that we've never seen before from a president. And now we're not standing by idly and doing nothing. One thing we can do is, okay, let's stop buying the liquor. Let's stop buying the food at the grocery stores, and let's not travel. Let's look within our own borders what we can do. I can speak for the province of Ontario. The government of Ontario had funded a campaign this summer through Destination Ontario, and it was about staying in Ontario, finding what there is to do in Ontario. They've never done that before. They always do run campaigns, but it's funneled through Destination Ontario, which is the organization umbrella for tourism. But this came directly from the government of Ontario, and we need to do something. So this is very unusual to have them step up in the spring to do full page ads in newspapers and digital ads. And they really wanted to focus on print because they know people are still reading physical papers, and you can do a lot with the creative. Also, as well, too, internally we do sections to promote Ontario, we call them Explore Ontario. For this year, for 2025, we had a record 24 pages in our May issue, which is our launch for the summertime. And upcoming in September for the fall colors, we're having 24 pages again. We've never done that before. We've never had it before. So the opportunity was there to come up with something for the marketers to, hey, the Globe Mail is doing something about staying in your own backyard, vacation in Ontario, and you reach out to the different organizations and they like it and they have money for it. And so they're advertising. So it's a complete shift from what you've seen in the past before.
It's interesting. We had Petro-Canada on a podcast not too long ago, and one of the things that they had done is a campaign timed perfectly to hold the start of the tariff conversation. But it was things like visit Miami, Manitoba, and other places like that where, American sounding names. Boston was another one that comes from, I can't remember which province that was in.
And if we remember when the president of the United States was first elected in 2016, there was a lot of talk about Canadians not wanting to go to the United States there just because of who he was and what he stood for. But research shows, especially in 2017, 2018, Canadians actually increased their visitation to the United States by a couple percentage points. So even though back then we're saying, I'm not going to go to the States, after a couple of years, people started going back to the States, started going to Las Vegas, started going to Florida. So there was not that shift at all. But this year, he came out like a bull in the china shop. You're going to become the 51st state, and we're going to tax you, we're going to tariff you, and that just got our back up, and that just changed everything that we've never seen before.
Yeah, and that was Vegas was the ongoing story that I keep seeing popping up. I don't know why it keeps showing up, but there's a drop in visitation for a
Yeah,
bunch of
like
reasons, and they cite the Canadians not coming as one of the reasons for.
I mean, WestJet in Canada alone was, I think, was a 30% drop, and well, they cut capacity to the United States. The airlines have, but in the month of June, it was over 30% cutback on people traveling to Las Vegas that Air Canada and WestJet both have seen, which is unprecedented to see that.
Hmm.
Do you think, outside of, beyond politics, were you able to uncover anything in your report, in your research, with any other underlying factors that might have contributed to these drops in travel?
The I'm just looking here. There were, I mean, the,
Sorry, we might need Mark to mute your microphone.
Before Andrew answers that,
Oh,
dollar exchange is always a key factor, regardless of what the situation is, whether it's a political situation or there's
mm,
conflict. People still, the dollar. So that always has in the back of people's minds as well. That'll never go away.
that's
Mhm.
true.
yeah, I know for us it was more about safety concerns for the most part. I think that 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 came up, but the main overarching factor are trade war, tariffs. I mean, that's people were voting with their wallets over that one.
Mm.
Is the idea of values driven choices when it comes to travel, is that new? Like it feels like people kind of done that, but maybe it's not as.
I wouldn't say it's new. I've been working with the travel category of Globe and Mail for quite a number of years. And over these number of years, there's been conflicts, whether it's a war in another country, like in the early 90s when there was the war with Iraq.
Mhm.
People will look at, I don't know if I want to visit that part of the world now with what's going on there. So you always had that in people's minds where I'm going to pause going to see family there or going to that part. And they just don't want to go where there's actual conflict, whether it's war or political conflict. But because this year, just the way the president of the United States has come out and um, like he just come out against us, like with
Mhm.
the rhetoric he is saying, that has really brought it to the forefront. So if there's like anything going on outside of the political warfare, people will not go to certain countries if they don't feel it's safe to go, or even if
Mhm.
the government of Canada say we advise you to maybe not travel this part of the world because what's going on.
Right.
So I really think that none of it's new. It's always there. It's more prominent now because of what's going on south of the
Right.
border.
Right.
Mm.
Andrew, I know you talked a little bit about alternatives and Europe being the top destination. Is there any more there that we could dig into in a little bit in terms of opportunities where are Canadians going instead of the US?
Yeah, so I think one thing to keep in mind is that the study that we conducted in May reflects travel intent.
Right.
And so it's the destinations they're considering traveling to over the next 12 months. So a few things. Among the 80% planning to stay in Canada, half are considering Ontario, 49% BC, 27% Quebec, and then rounding out the top five, I'd say about 20% each are looking at either traveling to Nova Scotia or Alberta. I think what's interesting is that about 34%, so one in three only have one province in mind, while two-thirds are considering multiple provinces. So don't forget, I mean, over the course of a year, people could take more than one trips, and they
Sure.
often do, and they could go to multiple destinations. About half are considering travel within Canada and travel internationally. So international for half of Canadians is one of those travel destinations. And then when you take a look at their top destinations internationally, Europe is the top, of which UK, about half of respondents saying that the UK is where they're thinking of going. France, Germany, Greece is in there as well. The Caribbean would be your number two. So Dominican Republic, Barbados, Bahamas, followed by Mexico. And even 14% are citing Australia or New Zealand as an international destination for them. Again, when I think back to our bucket list conversation about a year
Yeah.
ago, Australia and New Zealand came up, so maybe people are thinking about actually pushing up that type of destination. And then if I turn to our, a syndicated research vendor, and you look at the latest Longwoods International Tracking Study in July, they confirmed that Europe, Mexico, Caribbean were the top destinations that Canadians were visiting. So
Yeah, well, it's
quite a
funny.
long list.
Yeah, yeah. And this winter, there's, I think, probably partly because of WestJet's direct flight to Japan, but I met so many skiers that were going to Japan to ski, which had previously only been a dream for so many people. Speaking of your bucket list idea, there was tons of people going there this year.
Yeah, I know a lot of people on the West Coast have flown over to Japan for skiing. Apparently, they have some really great skiing
Yeah,
out there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Has anybody ever heard of the Yukon? Apparently, that's the that's the Canadian place to be right now.
It's funny you mention that, Derek. My sister was on a cruise and it was through the Yukon. They thoroughly loved it there, and they were
Yeah.
thoroughly embraced by the people in Yukon as well.
Yeah,
the Yukon feels as part of Canada because it's like separated. There's separation there.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Back to, kind of, I guess, the Globe's role in this. What role do you think you folks have done in kind of shaping, not just like reporting, but maybe on this public discourse on issues like travel or politics or, Canadian identity and so on and so forth?
Good question, Derek. So on Monday, July 7th, in the editorial pages of the Globe Mail, we wrote about Globe Mail's headed for tourism of patriotism. So our editor was like, here's where we can push back against the United States with our feet. Don't travel to the United States. In my 45 years history, in our editorials, we write, we never read about travel, about vacationing in Canada. So the editor talked about so much to see and do in our lovely country. Why don't we stay here, spend our money, get from crop. Never seen that before. So when we write about that editorially, people have a passion for paper. They love our paper. They read, what our thoughts are. So us writing about that, I was like, oh my God, Globe Mail editorial is even writing that maybe we should look at staying home. Maybe we should go to Banff, to Jasper, or what have you, and see what's in our own backyard. And that was quite nice to read that. And it helps I see something like that. I immediately put it on my social media, sent all my tourism partners out there saying, look what we just wrote about vacation in our own backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know what Mr. Trump would say to that? That's fake news.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
From a perspective, like we're now looking at Q4 pretty here, thinking about holiday travel coming up. There's lots of opportunities that people are still going to think about planning for Christmas and things like that. Have you seen any shifts for either Andrew or Mark? Have you seen any shifts in what airlines and hotels and travel companies are doing, or even just the marketers thinking about using some sites?
Well, I think for the marketers, they can pivot. They can look at what's going on, and besides from what we're reporting and other, the mood hasn't changed. There's still to not for so just the tea leaves, what's going on there, and also too, for some of the associations, they still rely on the USA Traveler. So a lot of border states or border communities, they want the American traveler to come up because they spend a lot of money when they come here, and they want to let them know you feel welcomed here. I mean, Niagara Falls, with their slogan they're having, like we are going around saying elbows up, they're saying arms are open, not elbows up, are open to welcome you. We want you to come here. We want you to spend your money here. You're going to feel welcomed here. So it's very important that the marketers still, yes, you want to market to Canadians, but don't forget there's a vast majority of United States Americans who want to come up, and we should market to them because they need that. The border states, the communities, and the provinces, they still need the American population to come up here to travel and visit with us.
It reminds me, I did see there was Tourism Quebec maybe that did something like that where it was a video of somebody welcoming an American. It was
And too, like for the Canadians going to the United States, there's so much out there saying like, are they going to take my phone? Are they going to check my phone? What
Yeah.
happens like, the airport? Are they going to pull me aside and ask me all these questions? And that just gets fear mongering too for a lot of people who, want to
Yeah.
go. That's another reason why I don't want to go there if I get pulled aside. My daughter, she's getting married in September. She went to Las Vegas for her pre-party, whatever, and there was no issues whatsoever going across, flying over, nothing whatsoever. So, it's just that's out there too for people too, and makes them concerned. Do I want to cross?
Mhm.
Maybe not.
Mhm. Yeah, so it sounds like there's a bit of an opportunity to, well, not to get caught up in the emotional side of it in terms of like, you don't necessarily as a marketer or organizations need to draw a line in the sand. There's still business on both sides of the border. There's still an opportunity there, but there's also new opportunities potentially for bringing in. I'm sure Europeans are maybe changing some of their tune as well about where they would want to visit, and looking at new markets that way outside of just the big market that we've always had right next door, which is the U.S. Andrew, is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Um, I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm still thinking. No, I mean, I've read and I've certainly seen that, and I see requests coming from other industry associations of us because they certainly want to tap into that. But no.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, that was great.
it's
Yeah.
it's gonna be
It's
it's
going to
gonna
be
be
interesting,
interesting.
Mark. You
Mark, you
mentioned
mentioned
about
about
the
the
fall
fall
coming
coming
up,
up.
and there's some things that Canadians will not relinquish, I don't think. If you're a sports enthusiast, I still think they're going to go to their NFL game down south,
Yeah.
regardless. They're going to do that. They're still going to do a guys' weekend to go to a hockey game, whether it's in LA or it's a Phoenix. I don't think that stuff's going to go away. I really think people have a passion to still go on and do that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting. See what happens with that. Um,
Mhm.
because I just, as a sports enthusiast for myself, we always plan a weekend away, go down to pick a city where we go to watch an NFL game or even a basketball game. I don't think that's going to change,
Mm.
regardless of what's going on. I think sometimes people's sports, like, I got to do this. I need this. I need this guy's getaway or what have you.
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
true. Yeah. And sorry, there's also the World Cup, the largest sporting
oh
event in the
yeah.
world, is coming to Canada and the US. So, and I guess Mexico too. I guess are we going to be fighting for for market there, or are we actually going to be flying to the US
Well,
to see all that and so
it's interesting because I thought I
on?
read somewhere, could have been in our paper too or elsewhere, that are they going to move more games to Canada? They're worried about, all the games in the United States and are people going to go there? So do we shift some stuff, more games to Canada? I don't know if logistically they can do that, but there's even talk about that. Like maybe it's
Mm.
safer having more games played in Canada than the United States. I don't know. There's a lot of out there. So,
I do, I do
Yeah.
think something what you were talking about, Andrew, earlier in terms of the selection. I think that's maybe, as I'm thinking and reflecting on this, the opportunity for companies here in Canada is there's not an automatic we're gonna choose the states anymore. There's now a pause, I think, of well, where could I go? Where should I go? And so that consideration, that there's now a new opportunity for companies, a lot of brands to go, yeah,
The
we have an opportunity to get on somebody's consideration set because they're now considering alternatives. It's not a
sure.
given.
Yeah, the consideration that certainly has gotten large. I know that Mark brought up the exchange rate too, right? I mean, it's not cheap to go to the U.S., right? When you're looking at close to 40 cents on the dollar. So when you open up your consideration set, and if you're willing to pay more, you could have quite the experience if you willing to do
Mhm.
that. So it's a rare moment for marketers, right? Where support local really extends beyond shopping. It's really
Mhm.
shaping how Canadians are choosing their vacation as well, and they can shift on a dime as we've seen within a matter of months. When you see 36% of Canadians willing to travel to the US are considering it down to 15%. I mean, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
It's true.
Guys, this has been awesome. I really enjoyed the conversation with you. How can people find out more about what you're working on and what the Globe and Mail's got coming up?
You want to take that, Mark?
Repeat
globemail.com.
Repeat the question, Mark, again.
Just wondering if you could fill in what people can, if people are interested in finding out more about what the Globe and Mail is working on in terms of market research and things like this, or that 24-page spread on
Well,
fall colors.
I encourage, I guess, to your followers to either subscribe to us print or digitally, or, look us up on the app or on Apple News, information with respect to research that comes from Andrew's, the department. However, as Andrew mentioned earlier, a lot of research that we have brought forward emulates what we're reading from other research out there. It's just people are, I guess, fed up and they're making changes. They have options now. They can go elsewhere than the United States, and there's more choices for them that they never thought before. And coming through, is this going to be permanent? Has permanent damage been done, or over time will people surveillance? It's interesting. I could bring forward this as well. There's a Tourism Association of the United States, because I'm part of the international, and they're coming back to advertise with us in the fall. And it's saying we are the friendliest state in the United States. So that's their slogan. Marketing to the Canadians, we are the friendliest state in the United States. And it's a red state, a very heavy red state, who's going to advertise. But they want Canadians to come down because they feel it. They do feel it. And the thing about tourism, Mark and Derek, it's not politically motivated. We don't care what your political stripes are. We want you to come and visit. Come visit us. And we're going to treat you a good time. We're going to show you a good time. And that's what's happening on both sides. So we want American visitors to come up here. We want the Canadian visitors to stay here to show, what you can do in other parts of our country.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I hope you have a great week, and elbows up.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting us.
Mark,
Okay.
Derek, thanks very much. It's been a great pleasure. I've really enjoyed this. So thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak on this as well. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure.